DevCon 2024. Woo! It's good to be here. And standing in front of all of this formidable brain power. And what brain power it is. I mean, just before I came up, I shook hands with one of my fellow speakers, and my entire right side of my body now knows AWS cloud architecture. So it's osmosis, guys. It's osmosis. Amazing. All right. Before we begin, first things first. A SQL statement walks into a bar, goes up to two tables, and says, "Can I join you?" Please hold your applause. All right, so that's the opening joke taken care of. I'm told that that's a necessary part of these things. Don't get me wrong, I'm really glad that you guys are here to listen to me talk. I was expecting not as many people. That's fine, whatever. But I am going to warn you that none of you are going to leave my talk any smarter than you walked in. So quick background. My name is Stuart Steedman, and I started programming when I was about 8 years old, and pretty much got into it professionally the moment I left school. Sorry, this hat's hot. Hold on. Yeah. Given she had no idea what I was on about, my mother used to tell her friends that I was a drug dealer, simply because it shut down that conversation fast enough that she didn't have to answer any questions she didn't know the answer to about what it is I did. The 90s, man. These days, I'm CTO to an ambitious company called Sebenza. And in a nutshell, we install Wi-Fi routers inside minibus taxis across South Africa for free. Cool. Sebenza, the yellow hat. Yeah. So we built the company on the mission of internet for the people, and this meant getting internet into the hands of people who can often scarcely afford it. And mobile data is really expensive in this country. Like, it's not the worst in the world. You only have to go northwards to Zimbabwe and really experience the pain of mobile data costs. But given how developed South Africa is, it's really expensive. And it's this vacuum, this cost that actually prompted us to go, well, the people that are riding around in minibus taxis don't get to experience the internet all of us here do. And that is, for us, internet is a tool for learning, is a tool for leisure, it's a tool for communication. I mean, it's everything. We're glued to our phones. And a significant percentage of the population don't ever get to have that thing. Theirs is one of necessity, just enough to be able to communicate, just enough to be able to hold their jobs, but very little else. I mean, things like Netflix would be an unimaginable luxury. Okay, so before we get into it, there are going to be far smarter people than me demonstrating way more advanced technology than we're using, and that's okay. The kind of stuff we're building sort of necessitates low tech. Instead, this talk is a semi-technical, meandering journey of what it took for us to become South Africa's largest non-fixed point Wi-Fi provider across the country, and with special emphasis on the stuff that went wrong, and like a lot went wrong. So this is an account of all of those problems and how technology fixed them, mostly. Okay, let's start with the basics. This here is a Toyota Hi-Ace Sesfikile 15-door minibus taxi powered by a 2.5-litre engine, and it is the backbone of the country's economy. If you're looking to buy, they go for about 600,000 Rand. And this little vehicle is relied upon by 70% of the country's population to get around, go to school, socialize. It's everywhere. Contrary to popular belief, Sesfikile, which is the model name of the taxi, does not mean speed limit optional. But I'll give a prized yellow hat for anybody who can tell me what Sesfikile really means. Oh, I saw the hand up there. I'm going to take a walk over to you. That is right. We have arrived. First bucket hat. Nice. Woo! Am I still on? Yeah. Cool. Right, fun thing about these bucket hats. So when we go out in the field and we install, sorry, what am I catching on here? When we install a new minibus taxi, we give the driver of that taxi one of these yellow hats. And I promise you in the rank, we get mobbed because other taxi drivers, A, love the yellow hat, and see it as like, now it's time to get Wi-Fi inside their taxi. So yeah, that's a very prestigious hat you're wearing there. I'm glad that you've got it on. Thank you very much. All right, but more specifically, these are Sebenza minibus taxis. And they're identified because they've got the branding all around, free Wi-Fi. And I encourage you that when you guys go out after this thing today, like, you'll start spotting them. So I don't know if you guys were, when you were kids, you used to play like punch buggy, you know, see a little VW thing? Me and my kids play punch Sebenza, and we get hurt a lot. All right, we've got branding inside as well, because, well, we need to alert people to the presence of this. So, quickly going through, we're installed in about 8,000 taxis in all of our major cities, with special concentration around Gauteng, Cape Town, Durban. By the way, these are all screenshots from our custom router management system. We'll get into that later. But to be a Sebenza taxi, you must be affiliated with SANTACO, the South African National Taxi Council. Your vehicle must be 6 years or newer, and the route that you take must be about 15 minutes or longer. Okay, otherwise it's too short and nothing meaningful comes from it. All right, going on to the other side of it, this is a Teltonica RUT955 router. And this runs a very stripped down version of Linux called OpenWRT. And this is what sits inside. This is the router that sits inside our thing. It's got a whole bunch of other gizmos like GPS capabilities and telemetry and things like that. But it's got a very custom firmware that we've put into it, which we're going to get into later, because turns out running a Wi-Fi system in minibus taxis is absolutely not like trying to install a Wi-Fi system, say, at OR Tambo. Okay, so this is installed by our technicians, and they bounce around from city to city. And once we get inside a taxi, we can get this puppy up and going in under 7 minutes flat, after which it'll start broadcasting its SSID, and everybody in the area can now start getting internet. Can handle 100 concurrent users, which might be overkill, maybe, for your average minibus taxi. I don't know, I've seen them pretty loaded up. And interestingly enough, the device is actually powered by the car's or the vehicle's battery. And that point's going to become important later on, but to answer the inevitable question that comes from our drivers, and I presume you guys as well, is no, it doesn't drain the battery. It just means that the system is broadcasting even when the vehicle is off. Cool. In fact, and we know it doesn't drain the battery because we've recovered taxis that have been in accidents or impounded or whatever the case for like 2-3 months, and that little router is still just doing its thing. All right. This, for those that might have flown in or live in an idyllic utopia, this is a pothole. And it's going to represent every time I talk about something and we've hit some kind of problem. So in this highway of us building the Sebenza thing, this is one of the first potholes that we've encountered. I mean, our taxis navigate them every day. Some of them even ramp them. But yeah, this is our first one. And our first pothole was, we should have predicted this, but our taxis don't drive on beautifully manicured roads. They also employ very alternative driving styles. And as a result, we found immediately like our antennae would just unscrew themselves just from bouncing around the whole time. And also from driving on untarred surfaces, dust would get everywhere and effectively shut the thing down. So luckily this pothole was an easy one to fix. I mean, a little bit of Loctite and some duct tape, and we were good to go for all further routers. But it was one of many to come. Glue code. Okay, fine. Another pothole. This time, load shedding. Okay, so I know none of us have had to bring out our ESCOMs to push for some time because elections are on the way. But that wasn't always the case, right? And what we found is that with stage 5 sustained load shedding going on and on, the mobile network operator towers would go into limp mode, effectively prioritizing emergency voice calls and voice calls in general, and completely destroying, data capability. And obviously that's a big problem to us. So we actually ended up partially solving this one. I mean, we primarily run on MTN as our data provider, but we started using the second SIM for Vodacom failover with a lot of complex instructions on which conditions to start switching it over, because obviously there are price differences between the two. But during the worst that load shedding had to offer, and we've had these personal accounts, is that for many of our commuters, we were the only way that they could actually get online when, stage 5 had been going on for 4 hours or something. We were the only way that they could get onto WhatsApp and communicate with their employers and say they're coming in late because every traffic light from Beyers Naudé down to Rivonia had stopped working. I realize when I'm in Cape Town next, I'm going to have to figure out what those roads are for the Cape Town leg of the trip, but that's fine. Okay, cool. Listen, we're not government-sponsored, right? We're not a charity. That's our team. It's very small. We do operate as a business. Businesses need to make money, and it's unsurprising that we've turned to an ad-supported model to, keep the lights on. This is actually quite exciting for our clients, we think, because for the first time, we're able to offer something that no one else has ever been able to do. If you go into a rank, there's plenty of billboards up, there's all sorts of things, there's advertising going on, but there is nothing that specifically targets the untapped taxi commuter market. And that's the trade-off. Our commuters interact with the Sebenza portal, watching ads, filling in surveys, doing questionnaires and whatnot, and in turn, they earn this, a Sebenza buck. And the whole thing's timed that you can earn enough Sebenza bucks in the duration of half a trip or less, and then redeem them to get open internet to do whatever it is you want to do. And the thing is, you can accrue them, like, don't spend them all at once, get them in different trips or across different taxis. We'll keep the wallet for you and spend as you like when you want to. Only condition is you obviously have to be inside a taxi. It doesn't work if you're outside of it. Okay, Sebenza is actually a full developer-friendly app ecosystem. So that's kind of what the portal looks like there. This is just some of the API libraries that we offer to give you insight into the person, to have you engage with the Sebenza Bucks economy. If you want to be part of a content provider, like we don't go and make our own news stories and horoscopes and things like that, they plug into the SP Content API. And we've got for authentication and events and notifications. So probably what a lot of you have come across, but just in a different form and for a very specific market. Okay, as a footnote, I've always found that when companies say they're developer-centric, that really just means they're prepared to share Postman collections, which, to be honest with me, is fine. It's like the easiest way to get stuff done. But I'm going to go into the specifics of what we had to do to get to where we are now. But I think the best way to do it is I've got a video. Now, forgive me, it is a little bit sales pitchy. It wasn't put together by anybody in the tech team. So bear with me on this one. But it does describe what we're at about.
Is your brand getting noticed? Are you struggling to connect with your audience? Abantu bakho. Engage with millions of people on the go with Sebenza, the all-in-one platform that puts the commuter first. Sebenza enriches the commuter experience by offering a wide selection of products and services that make the commute more enjoyable, rewarding, and productive. How does it work? Well, users earn our exclusive virtual currency, Sebenza Bucks, just by engaging. Whether it's watching ads, taking part in surveys, playing games, listening to Sebenza music, podcasts, or watching Sebenza TV. Sebenza opens up a world of possibility and enriches the lives of commuters, offering free education and jobs that matchmake their skills and location against opportunities. When they spend Sebenza Bucks, they can access the internet for free, get discounts on airtime, electricity, and grocery vouchers. We connect brands with ease to their target audience with ads, machine learning big data, and AI-powered targeting. Sebenza is the innovative platform that can help brands be top of mind with over 15 million South Africans who commute per day. With Sebenza, people can get rewarded just by engaging. It's quick and easy to use. All they need is a phone to get free access in a taxi or bus with just a few taps. We measure every interaction and leverage this data to develop smarter products and a user experience to better understand users and how brands can connect in more impactful ways. But Sebenza is more than just a platform for free internet. Our partnerships with Santaco and other leading transport industry associations are helping us reach our goal of 50,000 vehicles. We are working together to reach more people, to keep growing, and give more value throughout our ecosystem. Our large geographical footprint of vehicles across all 9 provinces and high levels of engagement puts millions of monthly active users at your fingertips. We're all about expanding the ecosystem and closing the loop. By integrating e-commerce, vouchers, and logistics in existing supply chains, you can supply products directly to the customers and see the direct impact of your sales or marketing efforts. And we're always working with product developers to add more value to the commuter market. Connect, engage, grow with Sebenza.
Okay, so we're in 8,000 minibus taxis. Oh, there was one thing. Okay, so I'm sure you may have picked up on that whole AI part and machine learning and all the rest of that, because I'm probably going to get asked about it later. But let me say that we generate vast amounts of geodata and user behavior stuff. I don't think AI is a term that gets thrown around, I think, a little bit too loosely, definitely by perhaps our sales team. But we are working with ML specialists to create, frankly, incredible products that, maybe I get to demo to you guys in 2025 and see what's going on there. Okay, so we're in 8,000 minibus taxis. I mean, how do we manage this fleet? I mean, the routers come with RMS support, that's router management system, but actually for our unique use case, we actually had to build it from scratch. We had a lot of information from these devices. We get like signal strength, data usage, geolocation, what else? Vehicle speed, CPU, RAM stats, the accelerometers, whole bunch of information about what's going on inside this taxi. And this data is transmitted to us continually. It goes up into a Google BigQuery thing where it informs, well, what I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so where do we use it? Bunch of interesting places. Who remembers this? That is the Bree Street explosion that took place on the 19th of July last year, and took out 2 Sebenza taxis in the process of all the ones that were there. From our router telemetry, we were immediately able to isolate which of our taxis had been in, had experienced this, and and we were able to get some real-time data on what that actually did to Joburg CBD, because we immediately started to note the traffic patterns had started to change and evolve, and they were routing around the problem effectively. And of course, Bree Street is still closed even now, a year later, more than a year later, no, a year later. So, we continue to monitor that. What do we actually get from this particular event? I mean, commercially, nothing too valuable, but it's a great exercise in understanding what we can do with that data. But this is Bree Street of this morning, that yellow line, and obviously it hasn't been fixed yet. But there's other great data we get from this. We can tell, not that it's happening now, but touch wood, when load shedding might start again. We have been able to find, without the help of Eskom's push, which parts of the city have been going offline, because we can immediately see what that what that does to taxis. The traffic lights go down, the patterns, the paths that they take change. And from that, we get to understand how much longer the commuter is going to be sitting in their seat, which actually means a lot to us from an advertising perspective, because we understand what they're prepared to go through. They're going to earn more Sebenza bucks to do it. We can serve different types of advertising for that. Taxi strikes, yeah. I mean, we absolutely get information on where the hotspots are, what it does to traffic. And we're collecting so much data at the moment that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of it. Like at this point, I think most of our database is like this write-only exercise whilst the data analysis of it catches up. But Stuart, how are you using this information to actually control and manage your fleet? I hear absolutely no one asking. Well, for one thing, this information is fed into ML-informed probability models. And basically what that does is we are getting so much better at determining when a taxi is about to go, or a router inside the taxi is about to go offline. Like, there are symptoms that happen, and we're getting good at it, because sometimes when a router goes offline or a taxi goes offline, that's it. We never see that router again. We don't know where they are. You know, they're not communicating their telemetry to us anymore. So this is a great example. Here we've got these little black taxis, and that is telling our technicians, get there now. That thing's probably going to go down in a day or two. And we've got red floating around there. It's going, I mean, you're sort of working, but like, pay attention. And this has been extraordinarily helpful, that analysis of data, because this is why it's not like installing Wi-Fi on OR Tumbo. It's a very fluid thing. The same RMS allows us to remote control the routers. We can reboot it, update its firmware, to get diagnostics. We can do so over HTTPS. We can do it over SMS if we need to, if the data is a problem. Cool. We can even tell when they've been stolen, because the pattern of usage completely changes. Suddenly there's like one person using the router day in and day out is pretty indicative, and we have scripts that will automatically shut down that SIM card and that router without human intervention. Okay, fine, another one. Randomly dead routers, even with the best ML whatever, routers just die. They just disappear for a whole bunch of reasons. So sometimes there's no reason. This is an example of a taxi that went offline. It was doing well, it's got its traffic, and then boom, nothing, just gone. So a couple of things we have available to us in this is, one is those little binding points. In the taxi industry, binding is the term given to when a taxi's not actively collecting fare, and it's just parking, normally in a rank or maybe on the side of the road or in a shopping center. But taxi drivers are creatures of habit, and they tend to bind in the same spot. So if a taxi goes offline, it'll inform the technicians they're probably going to be here in the morning, they're probably going to be here in the afternoon, and you can see the route that they take generally. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Yeah, and this is a helpful part of it. I mean, it's a bit manual, but the actual rescue to this situation we ended up building was BenziBuddy. And BenziBuddy is really cool, I think so. It excites me. The buddy system is a cool mechanism where healthy taxis in the field are informed of the damaged or missing routers out there. And what they do is they effectively they scan all the time, looking out for these affected routers, and try to detect if they can fix them. And if it does succeed in picking up a router, it runs through a laundry list of least to most invasive commands to try bring it back online. So those are, for example, it'll try reconfigure the network and APN settings, because sometimes those routers get the stuffing knocked out of them to the point where they're sort of just reset. We try either detect if the SIM is missing, maybe it's been stolen, or we force a SIM swap. We'll reboot the device and detect if the firmware is different and update it if necessary. And if none of those things work, if the healthy taxi can't get the damaged taxi back online through anything, it will then at least inform a technician where that taxi was seen, so that we can have a better chance of finding it again. Our latest buddy system's even better. The routers self-diagnose, and then they work out if they themselves are sick. And if they are, they start scanning to see if they can find any healthy taxis to get an internet connection off it, basically hotspotting off it, and sending all the telemetry it can back to us so we can do the same kind of diagnostics. Right, we focused on the router, but we've still got a portal to build. So, and we've got to be honest with you guys, sometimes there was a lot more pothole than road in trying to get this done for all the weirdest reasons. It's, I mean, what do we need this thing to do? It has to be an advertising platform. Obviously, it's the way we keep our lights on. It has to have self-evident UX and UI. We can't be, like, every designer wants to go overboard with like creative designs and slick things and things, but we are admittedly dealing with a target market that doesn't always have the phones to be able to support really complex interactions. And we've got a limited amount of time. We have to make this as self-evident as possible. And it has to work on low-end handsets. Low-end is a bit of a challenge, though. I mean, technically that is for 350 Rand, that's a low-end handset. But luckily we knew we didn't have to support feature phones. Yeah, that would have been hell. But we definitely needed to know what kind of phones our commuters were working with. So we worked with research partners. We went over the mobile network reports. And we even went inside taxis ourselves, which must have been a great experience for the other commuters, because then you got this pasty, high-calorie guy just slide into the seat next to you and goes, "Hey, I'm Stuart. Can I look at your phone?" There was understandable reluctance about that. Sorry. So we did report a wide variety of phones. We even came across this one. A few of them, a few times. I've got another hat for anybody who can tell me what the model of that phone is. Oh, I think in the front, I think I saw you there. I'll take two because I've got X. Well, you're nodding, so you get to have it as well. Who had the E250 as a phone in their past? It was such a popular phone. I used to have one, and I eventually had it until the sliding mechanism broke. The thing was great. I still miss it. But also we came across like this weird array of like Android gray import phones that we'd never even heard upon, with names we've never even seen. Anyways, it turns out we were asking the wrong question. The question shouldn't have been what phones are inside minibus taxis, because that led us down an interesting path. The actual question is, what phones are inside minibus taxis that people are actually browsing the internet with? The people inside the minibus taxis weren't browsing the internet with that, and they also weren't browsing the internet with, early Android 3.0 kind of things. But nevertheless, this misinformation on our part led us that we decided, flag in the sand, we support Android 4.4, also known as KitKat. That's a long way back. Okay, another hat. I'll try to give some love down to this side. If this phone is the answer, what is the question? Sadly not. Let's give it another go. Okay, cool. Open floor. If this phone is the answer, what is the question? Most common. There we go. It is the most common phone we were able to detect in the minibus ecosystem. There you go, mate. Okay, cool. So that was a good baseline for us to establish. Okay. Oh, gosh. Okay, fine. Another pothole, whatever. No great surprise. So we built our portal on React, and no matter how we spun it, we just could not get it to work on KitKat 4.4. And more specifically, not just because it's in a Chrome browser. Remember, we were trying to serve the entire content portal through the captive browser, the Wi-Fi captive browser, because we encountered a lot of problems in trying to get them off the captive portal into a normal browser. So once we realigned on this and we upgraded to better versions of Android, no problem. We were in a lot happier place. It wasn't fast, but it worked. So back to the portal. Who knows what a Wi-Fi captive portal is? Could describe it to me. Okay, yeah. Well, I just give you a hat. Yeah, that's normally what they're used for. It's effectively it is sometimes a modal window, but it looks like a browser, and you normally use it to, as you say, fill in your details, and then it closes and you have open internet. Because we don't give internet straight away, we need you to earn Sebenza bucks. We yeah, we had to try serve up this entire experience inside it. I actually tried to get ChatGPT to give me an answer on what a captive portal is because I found it was difficult. That's why I farmed it out to you guys. It was not especially helpful because I forgot my ChatGPT 4 logins. But yeah. Anyway, it turns out captive portals versus web development, normal web development, have a ton of restrictions. First of all, the phone, the device severely limits the amount of CPU and RAM that you can have inside a captive portal. That means heavy frameworks and lots of content on the page bogs it down. And we were having serious issues with this. How am I doing for time? Good. So I thought, all right, well, let's build a static HTML page. And then that can open up to the phone's browser. So captive portal limitations. 1, you can't use any kind of script to open up a captive portal to a browser. Not allowed, forbidden. You can't use hyperlinks to open up to a browser where it would perform better, so denied. And I had the great idea of like, what if we use the clipboard and you can copy paste in your browser? But I mean, that's a terrible UX. And so that's just stupid as well as denied. It didn't work. So it turns out the captive in captive portal means just that. You're kind of stuck there unless you open up the internet, which then closes it, and then you can do what you want. But we don't want to do that because, you know, they've got to earn their Sebenza bucks. So what options were left to us? React wasn't reacting well, wasn't working on good low-end phones. I mean, do we build this thing in a server-side language? Dare I say, oh, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that judgment. You know what? I've been a Laravel developer for 10 years, so I'm going to ignore all of that. Doesn't matter. Anyways, my devs didn't want to do that. So I was pretty much shut down. A side tangent, one of the great things I love about programming is how I can go from this to that in a few lines of code. I'm an unstoppable force. All shall bow before me. And then something goes wrong, and I've basically got imposter syndrome, and that's exactly what happens. I mean, this is, I think, most of us at some time. So, yeah, so in all seriousness, we were really battling to get through these limitations. It was relentless. And it turns out the combination of routers with low-end devices, minibus taxis, just equaled a lot of self-doubt. So to the point that I thought I was suffering from the Peter principle, which is in your professional career, moving your way up the corporate ladder until you find yourself in a position that you're no longer competent in. Like, I was like, okay, I think I've hit my limit here. Anyways, turns out we had was I this guy? Because this guy is considered like the textbook example of the Peter principle, like being promoted to your ineptitude. In the end, we sorted out the problem by when you log in, you get an SMS, and that link you click opens up a browser. But that's prohibitively expensive. We weren't going to be able to swallow that cost indefinitely. Still worked, though. Another hat. Who knows what that logo is? Wait, I can see down there. So you guys on the left and the right have it bad because the light's in my eyes. I can't even see you. Was it you? Ah, there we go. It is Preact, or Preact. I've never figured it out. And as it turns out, Preact actually ended up solving a lot of our issues. Specifically, I mean, look at the size difference between the two. It's 3 kilobytes versus 45 kilobytes. It strips out everything that we don't need. And suddenly, these Pep Store special phones that were chugging along suddenly just blossomed into life just by adopting this framework and like taking out the stuff we didn't need. We tracked 40% reduction on bounce rates and 20% on session length. And I'm going to go on record as saying that if you're building an SPA and your audience isn't the iPhone having Samsung latest 20,000 Rand model, have a look at that. It's worked very well for us. Okay, like most free services, we need to be able to advertise on it. Normally you just introduce something like Google AdSense or something like that. To no one's great surprise, no, denied. And here's why. With Google AdSense, we don't know what they're going to be serving up, what ads are going to come up on our content. And we're in this restricted internet space. We haven't broken out yet. So that means if an ad comes up and, for Coca-Cola, we don't know that there's Coca-Cola on our site. Our routers don't know that they're allowed to give people click it, that they get to the Coca-Cola site. It's restricted because it's part of the internet we're not serving. And this was a real problem for us. Like it undermined our ability to be able to generate revenue. So we actually ended up, in our early days, we were using a combination of Gatsby and Contentful, great headless CMS, by the way. It made a very responsive site, but it's not an ad server if we wanted to build our own, because it didn't have any kind of limitations in it. So we built our own ad serving instance. And this one ended up being quite cool because it's hyper targeted. Like you can serve ads on a specific route or in specific taxi ranks or particular demographics. It's really cool. And it's actually worked so well that we got one of the major MNOs looking at it to use in their data-free environments because it solves that particular problem. Another hat for who can tell me what you think this was programmed in. Just shout it out and I'll try find it. What? No, go old school. No? No, oh gosh. Really? No, I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, it's a Laravel application. Who said it? I heard a Laravel. There we go. It's Laravel. In fact, I ended up coding it because A, it's what I know, and B, I was just prototyping it to get it done. But it turned out the prototype worked so well that it ended up being both the front and back end application. And it's one of those little oddities of the company where everything else is written in something else, except our ad serving solution, which relies on, obviously it's Laravel, it's heavily dependent on Redis. So because we're serving so many ads, like 600,000 ads and so on a day, it's doing all of its computations through direct instructions through Redis, which relieves all the pressure on Laravel and PHP. Highly optimized MariaDB, which is sort of first-line storage. Well, Redis is first-line storage. MariaDB is second-line storage, which flushes out to BigQuery, which does all of our reporting. And if you're in that space and you need to quickly build front-end interfaces, I did mine with admin LTE. It's quick, it's fast. I'm not a front-end coder, and yet I still managed to put that together. So, give it a thumb. Right, as mentioned, Sebenza operates as an ecosystem. We're in 8,000 taxis, 500,000 monthly active users. We're doing between 400 and 600,000 impressions a day, serve up 180,000 content items, and since we've begun, we've given away 2,500 terabytes of data to the South African public, which I don't even want to think about what that means if we, in cost value, if there's the people buying it themselves. As alluded to by the video earlier, we're part of the DNI group, and they do a whole bunch of things, VAS, e-commerce, mobile sales, and it's through them that we're sort of unlocking all of these features that we're able to serve to people. But all things told, we really enjoy working for the South African minibus taxi industry. It's unlike anything I've ever done. And our very many struggles in getting here, our learnings in themselves, but the best learnings weren't even technical in nature. First of all, I can't stress enough that you have to understand who you're building for. As devs, our adoptions of languages and frameworks is largely influenced by global trends. So that didn't really work for us. We've now rely more on a policy of a more Afrocentric look at things, and we have to make sure that our stuff supports lowest common denominator, bottom end of the systems before we even begin layering up in complexity. But the big learning is that our audience doesn't even use the platform the way we thought it will. We modeled our things on being huge amounts of activity in the morning commute and huge amounts of activity in the evening commute, and like we're nothing in between. That didn't happen. From about 5 o'clock to about 11 o'clock at evening, it's sustained traffic throughout, which is really weird. And then we realized what's happening is that because our devices stay on, even when the car's turned off, we unwittingly became the country's largest supplier of internet to taxi ranks in the daytime and to townships at night. And because these taxis are parked where the drivers are, where the drivers live. And so they provide Wi-Fi to all of their neighbors. We've had taxis that have gone down where the drivers have gotten hold of us and said that his neighbor's kid is complaining because he can't do his homework anymore. And we didn't consider this in our business case. We certainly didn't consider it in our server scaling, auto scaling. And then finally, anticipating the opportunity and building towards it is important. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but the footprint we've established has us exploring all sorts of cool things like custom taxi GPS, and more excitingly, cashless transactions within taxis. It's something we're working with the taxi industry. And I fully believe that there will be many potholes in these journeys. It's absolutely guaranteed, specifically the way things work. But then I remember, as developers, there is the tenacity of the minibus taxi in all of us. And since when has a taxi ever worried about a little thing like a pothole? Thank you very much.